From a lonely orphaned teenager to one of the most powerful men in Hollywood and aviation, this is the story of Howard Hughes, a man who dared to dream bigger than the sky itself. Howard Robard Hughes Jr. was born on December 24, 1905, in Houston, Texas. His childhood was a blend of privilege and loneliness. His father, Howard Hughes Sr., was a brilliant inventor and entrepreneur who made a fortune by patenting a revolutionary drill bit used in the oil industry. His mother, Ellen, was fiercely protective, almost obsessively focused on his health, and often worried he would fall ill. Growing up, young Howard had access to wealth and comfort, but also isolation. He was a curious, restless child who preferred tinkering with machines to playing with other children. At just 11 years old, he built Houston's first wireless radio transmitter. By 12, he had already constructed his own motorized bicycle. By 14, he had designed and built a working motorcycle from scratch. From an early age, it was clear, Howard Hughes was no ordinary boy. But life took a sharp and devastating turn. At the age of 16, Hughes lost his mother. Just 2 years later, in 1924, his father suddenly died of a heart attack. In a short span, Howard Hughes went from a privileged son to an orphaned teenager with the weight of an empire on his shoulders. Most people in his position would have crumbled, but Hughes saw opportunity. He inherited 75% of the family business, the Hughes Tool Company, and instead of selling it, he made a bold choice. He decided he would use the family fortune as a springboard to chase his dreams, not just in business, but in industries that seemed larger than life. Barely out of his teens, Hughes moved to Los Angeles. It was the 1920s, the golden age of Hollywood, a place where dreams turned into celluloid and stars were born overnight. With a combination of inherited wealth, daring ambition, and sheer obsession, Hughes entered the movie business. He wasn't content to be just another rich producer. He wanted to make films that shocked audiences, that broke boundaries, that made people talk. In 1927, at only 22 years old, Hughes produced his first major film, Everybody's Acting. It didn't set the world on fire, but Hughes was just getting started. His breakthrough came with Hell's Angels, a World War I aviation epic released in 1930. Hughes poured nearly $4 million, an astronomical sum at the time, into making the movie. He obsessed over every detail, insisting on real aerial combat scenes and pushing pilots to the limit in dangerous stunts. He even learned to fly planes himself, joining the pilots in the skies to make sure every shot looked authentic. The production was plagued with delays, accidents, and even deaths, but Hughes refused to compromise. When Hell's Angels was finally released, it became a massive success, launching Hughes as a major Hollywood power player. But Hughes wasn't satisfied with just making movies. He was fascinated by aviation, not just as a filmmaker but as a pilot, an engineer, and a visionary. Flying wasn't just a passion for Hughes, it was an obsession. He founded the Hughes Aircraft Company in 1932, determined to push the boundaries of what airplanes could do. While others saw aviation as practical transportation, Hughes saw it as the future of human progress. In 1935, Hughes broke the world land plane speed record, piloting the Hughes H-1 Racer at 352 miles per hour. Just 3 years later, in 1938, he circled the globe in a record time of 91 hours, smashing the previous record and becoming a global celebrity. Suddenly, the orphan from Texas wasn't just a Hollywood mogul. He was the face of modern aviation. Hughes combined his passion for flying with his Hollywood persona, creating a mystique around himself that captivated the public. He was tall, strikingly handsome, and often seen alongside the most beautiful women in Hollywood. He dated stars like Katharine Hepburn, Ava Gardner, and Ginger Rogers. The tabloids couldn't get enough of him. To the outside world, Hughes seemed unstoppable. Wealthy, brilliant, fearless, and surrounded by glamour. But behind the scenes, his perfectionism bordered on obsession. He was notorious for demanding total control, whether in film or aviation. He micromanaged every detail, often pushing projects far over budget and behind schedule. Yet, his relentless drive also produced breakthroughs that others thought impossible. His company, Hughes Aircraft, became a leader in aerospace innovation, contributing to military technology, radar systems, and satellites. In Hollywood, Hughes continued to shake up the industry. He produced Scarface in 1932, a film so violent and daring for its time that it battled with censors for years before being released. Decades later, it would be regarded as a classic that helped redefine gangster films. Hughes also acquired RKO Pictures in the 1940s, one of the biggest film studios in Hollywood. He wielded enormous influence, reshaping the film industry with his bold decisions and larger-than-life presence. Yet, with great ambition came great cost. Hughes suffered multiple plane crashes while testing aircraft, often pushing his body to the brink of death. In 1946, he nearly lost his life when a prototype plane he was piloting crashed into a Beverly Hills neighborhood. His body was broken, ribs shattered, collarbone crushed, lungs punctured. He survived, but the injuries left him with chronic pain that would haunt him for the rest of his life. To cope, Hughes increasingly relied on painkillers, and over time, his health and mind began to unravel. Despite his struggles, Hughes reached even greater heights in business. In the post-war years, Hughes' aircraft exploded in growth, becoming a defense industry giant. His fortune multiplied. By the 1950s, he was one of the richest men in America, with influence spanning movies, aviation, and politics. He purchased Trans World Airlines, TWA, turning it into a major global carrier. He was no longer just a Hollywood mogul or a daredevil pilot. He was a tycoon whose reach extended across industries. But while his empire grew, Hughes himself began to retreat from the world. His obsessive tendencies, once a strength, spiraled into crippling paranoia and reclusiveness. He became notorious for locking himself in darkened hotel rooms for months at a time, refusing to cut his hair or nails, surrounded by boxes of tissue he believed would protect him from germs. The man who once commanded the skies and the silver screen became a ghost of his former self, hidden from public view. Even as his health deteriorated, Hughes's business empire continued to generate enormous wealth. His investments in aviation, aerospace, and film made him a billionaire at a time when billionaires were almost mythical. He left an indelible mark on every industry he touched. Hughes aircraft, in particular, became a cornerstone of the American defense industry, contributing groundbreaking technologies that shaped the modern world. When Howard Hughes died in 1976 at the age of 70, he was barely recognizable from the charismatic mogul the world once knew. Frail, emaciated, and isolated, he passed away on an airplane en route to Houston. Yet despite the tragic decline of his later years, his legacy remained undeniable. He had lived a life of extremes, wealth and poverty, glamour and loneliness, brilliance and madness. Howard Hughes's story is one of contradictions. He was a man who achieved everything he dreamed of: fortune, fame, innovation, yet struggled to find peace within himself. He pushed the limits of aviation, helped shape Hollywood, built a business empire, and became one of the richest men in the world. At the same time, he battled personal demons that ultimately consumed him. And yet, what makes his story enduring is not just the tragedy, but the triumph. Hughes was an orphaned teenager who could have faded into obscurity. Instead, he used his inheritance not to sit comfortably, but to challenge industries, to set records, to defy expectations. He proved that ambition, when paired with vision, can change the world. Howard Hughes once said, "Do the impossible, because almost everyone has told me my ideas are merely fantasies." And that's exactly what he did. From orphaned teenager to aviation and Hollywood mogul, Hughes's life reminds us that the human spirit can soar to unimaginable heights. His genius was flawed, his journey turbulent, but his mark on history is undeniable. Because this isn't just the story of Howard Hughes. It's the story of what happens when you refuse to accept limits, when you dream beyond the horizon, and when you chase greatness no matter the cost. If an orphaned boy from Houston could rise to dominate the skies, light up the silver screen, and build a billion-dollar empire, then so can you. If Hughes's story inspired you, share this with someone chasing big dreams. Drop a comment about what dream you're working toward, And hit the like button if you believe nothing is impossible. And if you want more powerful stories of resilience and ambition, make sure to follow for the next one. Because greatness is contagious, and your story might be the next to inspire the world.